Is this the best 80% high-end gaming keyboard with magnetic Hall effect switches, analog inputs, 8 kHz polling rate and almost unlimited options for adjustment? We take a detailed look at it, namely at a Wooting 80HE keyboard. In this review, we go into detail on all areas, take a look at all functions, marketing promises and what they ultimately hold, as well as the quality standard that await us here. Wooting has provided us with a 80HE free of charge for the test, but without any prerequisites. So it's about our free and own opinion. And to put it in advance, this Wooting keyboard has really surprised us in some areas. But one thing after the other. In terms of delivery, we see here the Wooting 80HE in the ghost case with the PVC keycaps, a 2-meter long USB-C cable, a switch and keycap puller, replacement switches and different feeds, but more on that in a moment. Basically, the 80HE is in the 80% layout, so it's much more compact than a full-fledged keyboard, but with all the important buttons. We choose the ghost case to make the LED lighting and the various functions a little easier to see and, of course, to maximize the effect. The materials are made of 65% recycled plastic, so environmental friendly. And the weight of 790 grams seems to be very stable, but it's not overly heavy. In total, we find almost 14 layers in the layout, where in particular the large-scale silicon sealing should give a softer tip feel and absorb bumps. This means higher frequencies should also be dampened. The heart, of course, are the lacquer L60 V2 switches, because they work analogically to high-quality joysticks with a magnetic Hall effect technology. This, of course, ensures extreme precision and extremely low wear and tear. And this also offers the option of operating analog inputs, so for example, with different strong keystrokes to perform different actions, or as with a joystick, for example, to push or give thrust. In addition, a rapid trigger function, so the deactivation of traditional trigger and reset points, a Rappy Snappy, the surveillance of 2 selected keys and the activation automatically of the furthest pressed key, and of course, the aforementioned adaptability of each individual key. The scope of delivery is inconspicuous, and in addition to a 6 and 10 degree optional extension for the keyboard, offers a USB-C cable with 2 meters, a high-quality cover and an adapter for USB-A. Also in addition, the keyboard has an adaptable LED strip as well, of course, an extremely fast connection via USB-C, whereby we reach a polling rate of over 8 kHz, so this means 0.1.2 milliseconds. For the review we use ISO PBT keycaps in just white. And these keycaps look high quality and of course wear complete. But first to the most important question, how does the 80HE sound? Now you hear the official sample provided by Wooting. And afterwards our own recording. At this point, we can confirm the surprisingly quiet sound. Thanks to the stabilizers, nothing rattles and we don't have any annoying noise. The feeling is much softer than expected and not too loud. And before we get to the very special software, let's summarize the features again briefly. First, we have the option to set the trigger points manually from 0.1 to 4 mm, so optimal for example for quick direction changes via the movement buttons with a minimal trigger point setting, up to a maximum for example for the Windows button to avoid unforeseen button breaks. Also, the very high USB polling rate with 8 kHz, so 0.125 milliseconds, is also important for the maximum reaction time. And of course, the 80HE also offers a full dynamic LED lighting and also a LED bar. This can also display the different keyboard pressure points, for example, as well as 10 squares of thousands of options for how you can operate your LED settings. And in terms of ergonomics, as mentioned, we have the standard option with a 2.8 degree angle, with the adaptive 6 degree or 10 degree angles that we can attach to the keyboard and exchange over the silicone feed at any time. Finally, the pure hardware can convince at this point. We have a pleasant weight of just under 70-80 grams, which means the keyboard doesn't just slip away, and we have a high-quality equipment, not just the keyboard, but also the keycaps. Promising. But of course, the best hardware is useless if the software doesn't fit. So let's take a look at the Wooting software for the 80HE. And spoiler alert, Wooting can really score here. Because we can not only download the Wooting software and install it, but also is completely usable in the browser, so without any installation on your computer. So again, completely in the browser, no installed bloatware. We have a profile management here with 4 profiles that we can save onboard and infinitely in the cloud. The onboard storage with 8 MB offers everything that your settings on the keyboard should keep. We have extensive adjustments option for this and the trigger point definition for each individual key, countless RGB effects, macros, advanced keys, and analog control, and much more. And of course, there is support for Windows, Mac OS and Linux for the software. So it runs everywhere. And the software is identical here, so whether you prefer the web version or the installation version, you have the same options. And these are really comprehensive. And here we go into some specialties, such as the mentioned rapid trigger. So instead of waiting for a fixed point, the corresponding configured key immediately reacts to a movement direction of your finger. Because in the standard you have to let go for one key so that you can press the next key. With the rapid trigger, 0.50 mm are enough and the next key is used directly. With the Rappy Snappy, for example, you can have 2 keys monitored at the same time and the key is automatically activated the way you pressed it, so firmer. The Tachyon Performance mode deactivates all RGB features, wave effects and so, but focus on maximum speed and polling rate. And of course, you can create the most diverse profiles for normal desktop operations up to gaming mode or a creator mode. And of course, you can also configure every key from 0.1 mm to 4 mm trigger width. A real highlight, however, is the analog input. Because here we can convert our keyboard into a controller stick in a gamepad mode, because the deeper we press, the stronger the effect, analog of an analog stick of a gamepad. This is a real game changer, for example, for simulation games like Star Citizen, where you can gradually push your spaceship and not just full throttle or nothing. Or of course, for all games that you would best play with a controller, but don't want to connect one. Optionally, you can use the whole thing as an Xbox controller or as a standard controller. But also the ability to use the dynamic key pressure, so to put up to 4 functions on one single key, for example, depending on how hard the keys are pressed. So a real software complete program, including of course extensive macro or adjustment options for standard functions. And of course, the optics are not too short either. Here we have different levels, whereby the different presettings can also be adjusted. With this we can animate each individual key, assign them differently with different colors and to put effects on them. There are currently no functions that we would miss here. Another feature is the light bar, the LED light indicator, which we can also apply ourselves. And there are also upcoming functions here, such as a RAM utilization, but currently not yet available. Soon, TM. At the moment, we already have some different presettings and options that we can use, whereby we first decided on the key depth option, whereby each pressed key is displayed with a small light bar, how hard we press them. A nice effect when you're writing. So we come to the conclusion of the Wooting 80HE. For the open price between $200 and $350 depending on the chosen configuration, so in plastic or zinc variant, with the different variations, the Wooting is anything but cheap. But Wooting gives you here a 4-year warranty with 100 million clicks. So definitely a purchase for eternity. But what we can expect here? The most diverse features are positive, from rapid trigger, Rappy Snappy to analog input, excellent processing and materials, future-proof Hall effect technology, so without wear and tear, and excellent software without bloatware directly in the browser. In addition, environmentally friendly production and a long warranty of lifespan. As contrast, of course, the high price to mention and the fairly large learning curve to really get to know all the settings and features. to use them and configure accordingly. But who should buy the Wooting 80HE? Basically, for every competitive gamer. The shorter response time and smart features offers a real added value here, but also for professional content creators with high expectations, technology enthusiasts and keyboard fans. And of course, simulation pilots who can use an analog function in a keyboard here. The 80HE is less recommendable for pure casual gamers who play a game from time to time, very budget-conscious users, and fans of full-size keyboards, because at this time it is the 80% variant. But in summary, the Wooting 80HE is not just a keyboard, it's a statement. But which gaming features are the most important to you? Let us know in the Discord, here in the video comments or in our daily Twitch live streams. And if you want to see more hardware reviews or videos about Star Citizen, Dune Awakening and other games, feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Thanks for watching!